Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Paddock Pass podcast. We don't have a lot to say. Actually, it's probably not the strongest way to start a podcast, but we're going to talk anyway because we're in the midst of the MotoGP summer break. There's some little strands of news as riders are kind of showing off their six packs and torsos while on various yachts and boats and beaches around Europe and everywhere else. Dave, how's your abdomen looking?
It's I don't know, about a 78 pack or something. I don't know, something like that.
Isn't it a one pack? Isn't that more of an accurate description?
Possibly, it depends. It's a very fractal thing, my abdomen. It depends how closely you look at it, which I would recommend not looking at all whatsoever. However, I will say that sort of riding back from Brno, what was it? We took like about 10 days or 8, 9, 10 days, whatever. And it has been good for my weight. Riding a motorbike leaves me less time to eat food, so it's been all good.
Except when you go over the bumps and those little kind of jelly belly moments remind you, yeah, shit, perhaps I should eat even less. That's speaking from personal experience, of course.
Well, yes, it did. I also, riding 2 up with loads of luggage also reminded me that I need to get some new springs on the motorbike because it's not really up to carrying my weight plus all of the crap I all around plus my delightful and quite light wife.
Neil Morrison, you've been in danger this weekend. How has the Guinness intake been going?
Yeah, thanks for not asking about my six-pack ad because it was certainly found wanting after...
He finished it off last night.
After 4 days in Dublin, it took a bit of a battering. But yeah, it's been a nice time. Nothing massively crazy to report, but the Guinness was nice.
Well, on this show, we're going to talk about some of our surprises, riders that have impressed us the most, some of the riders that have been, kind of slight disappointments. As I mentioned, I'm Adam Wheeler, and there has been a couple of brief news items popping up for MotoGP, so we'll talk about those as well. But in the tradition of the Paddock Pass podcast and our race review, guys, I think it's only fair to start this show by asking what's been our favourite moment of the season so far. And I'm going to continue talking by saying mine. There's been a couple, but I would say the general chaos from the Grand Prix of the Americas at Austin. I was not too impressed by the amount of credit that Marc Marquez got for the start grid chaos. I mean, like he was some Machiavellian Dick Dastardly, was hatching this bad plan to throw everybody. But
he is a Machiavellian Dastardly.
No, come on, Dave. I think he's got far too much for that. But I thought, I got everybody talking about stuff that wasn't tire pressures, wasn't aero, wasn't formulaic racing, wasn't the Marquez Championship narrative that's going to stretch on until November. And it was just, this merry, hot nonsense. And, I think it was one of the kind of big talking points of the season so far. So I'm nominating Austin and just that, brain-boggling moment in the circuit of the Americas. Dave, what about you?
My moment of the season was a little bit later at the same thing, where at the same event, where Marc fell off while leading a race that he was obviously going to win by a very long way. He's put all that effort and brain power into trying to manipulate the situation to give himself an advantage on the grid by misreading the rules and getting them wrong. And then he goes away and he's leading and he turns in a little bit earlier, hits a white line and goes down and crashes out and scores nul point. So that was, for me, that was a magnificent moment of hubris, and it injected a little bit of excitement. On the other hand, I mean, Marc should have won at Cota because he just completely crushed the place, but he managed to completely ruin it for himself. And it also illustrates perfectly the only thing that's going to stop Marc from winning the championship is Marc.
Dave, can we read something into the fact that you picked a moment of hubris from MotoGP so far in 2025?
Hubris is one of my favourites. I mean, I'm all about the hubris and the Schadenfreude. In fact, all about the foreign words. Give me a foreign word, and I'm all in favour of it.
Vorsprung durch Technique.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's ironic, really, that's actually an Audi slogan, given that Gigi Dall'Igna, who is paid by Audi indirectly, is absolutely, definitely has a Vorsprung durch Technique.
Neil, can you give us something maybe a little bit more inspiring?
I mean, I was very inspired by both of your moments, I have to say. And I guess to inject a little bit of foreign flavour, just as Dave has done, I'm going to add a little bit of ooh la la, because my moment of the season so far was Johann Zarco's triumph in Le Mans. Was just a historic moment, I think, for MotoGP. The first French winner on home soil in the Premier Class since 1954. Wasn't necessarily the most exciting or enthralling race. The first 8-9 laps were, when everyone was confused as to who was on wet tires, who was on slicks, who was serving a double long lap penalty, who wasn't. And you had this kind of helter-skelter order. And then when Zarco eventually established control, everything was fairly in order until the end of the race. But just his reaction, the crowd's reaction, his family's reaction was just what sport's all about. And I thought that was a really special thing to see.
Neil, considering your better half is French, the best you can come up with is ooh la la. I mean, that was your moment to really kind of dazzle the Paddock Pass podcast audience by, throwing some, I don't know, high class Francais on the table.
Yeah, it could have been aux armes les citoyens, which would be a lot more.
Neil Morrison upstaged by David Emmett once more. I mean,
not for the first time, and not for the last.
That's got to be a shot category on the Paddock Pass podcast drinking game, I think. In the tradition of this podcast, just a little off-track moment. Any personal favourite memories from 2025 so far as we're sort of tipping into the 8th month of the year? Neil, back to you.
I mean, I was going to say last week when we didn't have a podcast and I wasn't chatting to both of you guys, but that would be a little bit, that would be false because I actually really miss chatting to you both. I mean, kind of, it's not a personal moment per se, but it was just the sheer randomness of Maverick Vinales leading in Qatar. That was probably the most surprising moment of the year, and sort of injected a little bit of unpredictability to what has been so far a season that has kind of gone to, well, with a few obvious exceptions, but generally speaking, if you look at the rider that's dominating, I think that's what most of us expected at the start of the year. So yeah, I think just the sheer randomness and the surprise of that, because it had been a torrid opening for KTM and for Vinales in the fourth race to just come through and lead was pretty baffling.
We asked for a personal moment, Dave, and Neil's already riffing on Maverick Vinales. Can you offer something vaguely more interesting?
Yeah, he was having some me time thinking about Maverick. No,
makes a change from Dovey.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. No, I mean, my personal moments are always wrapped up with motorbikes, which is my second favourite thing after my wife. So I would say that, like Ray, there's been a couple of races where I've ridden in and been in sort of amongst a whole bunch of bikes, and it is. Normally, I don't really enjoy riding with other people because I like to concentrate on my own riding and not have to worry about sort of other people. But there is something really, really special about riding into a motorbike race, just surrounded by bikes. It makes you feel a little bit less alone in the world as a motorcyclist.
Oh, isn't that cute? What was the circuit where you had the easiest entry this year?
The easy, I mean, probably Silverstone. Silverstone was really easy. Although I have to say, shout outs to Frine Villia, who does the media stuff, because I did message her just before Assen saying, I'm coming to Assen on the motorbike. Is there any chance you could have a quick word with security? And I literally turned up on the motorbike, waved my thing, and they just waved me straight through. And I didn't have to attempt to murder anyone.
You waved your thing. Doesn't that get you arrested in the Netherlands?
That was they probably didn't notice, which is why they waved me through.
They rolled out the red carpet. Here comes that red BMW, quick. Yeah. That's it. He had that strange Dutch, social media influencer from Assen with his red carpet, and Dave just rode right through. But just quickly for me, I think before, the Grand Prix Americas at Austin, I took a trip to Las Vegas just to do some promotion for the book. I mean, the book was a pretty big thing after working most of the year on it and launching that. And I was convinced or persuaded rather to make a visit to the Sphere. And it just blew me away. I was watching a U2 concert that they had done, I think, over a year previously, some kind of anniversary edition of Achtung Baby, which is their best album. and just the visual and audio effect of being in that sort of round multi-billion-dollar structure was mind-blowing. It was well worth like the $120 it cost me to get in and to sit up in the gods. It was like one of those old 360 video experiences you went into theme parks as a kid. It was very similar to that, and it was just very immersive and fantastic. And then, of course, the Birmingham Supercross, and making a visit to the Barber, museum, and seeing all those amazing motorcycles, just to keep it two-wheel related. So,
you said YouTube. I thought you said YouTube for a moment, so I was wondering, what your history had been, that you'd gone to the Las Vegas Sphere to watch some YouTube short of someone falling off a motorbike.
No. Irish musicians, Dave.
Musicians. Yes. I actually saw them when they were good.
A little bit of topicality. I believe as we're recording this, some riders, I'm not too sure how many, at Balladon Park.
Ducati riders.
Just Ducati. Does that include the VR46 contingent as well?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Right, so they're taking a private test around the circuit that's going to be hosting the Grand Prix after next. And then, of course, we've just had the World Superbike round. Apologies to Paddock Pass podcast listeners for the late delivery of that show. Steve is on it, while he's not tucking away his 9-iron into his bag and losing 3 golf balls per round. He will sit down with Gordo and get that show done in the coming days. But Dave, I just wondered, from having a look at Superbike, any thoughts so far on what we're going to be facing in Hungary? Because it is, the first sort of unseen track on the calendar this year.
The general, just from talking to people who were there, the general impression was that the facilities were pretty good. The whole thing was very good. There's still lots of sort of logistical bits and bobs that they're going to need to sort, which to an extent is good that they had Superbikes there first. I think the car park is still grass, for example, so that's going to be that could cause a few problems. Traffic is always an issue because you don't really know how the traffic streams are going to be. But the pits were good, media center was good, all the rest of it was good. It's just the track is a bit shit, really. It's too tight, it's too small. We did see, I think, in the first Superbike race, a really big smash up in the first corner. And this is going to be one of the big dangers. If you think about other places with really difficult first corners like Misano or Barcelona, where the track sort of comes back on you, the riders have raced there so many times that they know how to react. They know how the track is going to go. They are sort of like thinking through, they've thought through that getting through that first corner so many times that they actually avoid a lot of issues, even though there are still a lot of issues. And I think that the problem at Balladon Park was just no one had ever raced there before. No one had ever actually dived into that corner together in a big pack. So they weren't really sure exactly where people were going to be, what the best line was. So everyone's sort of hesitating different lines, just behaving unpredictably, and that was what caused the issue. So I do expect that we're going, in the sprint race especially, we're going to see sort of just a massive mess in turn one, and maybe it'll be a little bit better on the main race on Sunday.
No, I'm going to disagree a bit with Dave here because, I don't think we can say the racing is going to be shit until we've actually had one. And
no, the racing might not be shit, but because there are some shit tracks that we have really good racing. But Austria being one, we've had fantastic. Austria's a terrible track, but we've had some fantastic racing there. But just not really suitable for MotoGP bikes. But then again, neither is Sachsenring, and I absolutely adore Sachsenring.
Well, I mean, as the saying goes, life's a box of chocolates, right? I mean, we should embrace
Sometimes
diversity.
You get the coffee cream.
Yeah, that'll be a whole box for you, Dave. Endlessly searching for the non-coffee chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, Neil, what's just kind of your thoughts? Only a couple of weeks away from going to Balladon Park for the first time. Are you ready for something new? Are you ready to sort of see maybe a little bit of a switch up in MotoGP form?
Well, it's an anti-clockwise track that is tight and narrow. So yes, I think we're going to see a massive switch up at the front of the order. I think it's going to be very suited to a certain rider that's currently leading the championship. I mean, pretty much what Dave said. sounds like a good facility. It sounds like a really fun, cool area. Like I heard from some of the Superbike people that it was like, real good buzz, nice sort of holiday destination for a lot of Hungarians, next to the track, next to the big lake, and lots going on in the evening time. Hopefully, we'll have a slightly bigger crowd than what we saw in Superbike. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the racing did anything to really inspire massive hope. Certainly in MotoGP, at least from what we saw at Superbike. Although the Superpole race was quite good, but that was mostly because it was wet with dry and track, and some people were on intermediates, some people were on slicks. But yeah, I wouldn't say we're set up for maybe amazing racing, but then we could be surprised.
Neil, you mentioned the 93, just very quickly, because we talked about him quite a lot on recent podcasts. When MotoGP comes back from the summer break, there's no reason whatsoever to imagine that the form book's going to alter, right? I mean, Pecco Bagnaia is not suddenly going to find a magical solution to his problems. Jorge Martin's not going to win a race straight away. Marc's going to be, if anything, maybe slightly more calculating and keeping an eye on the points gap. Any sort of immediate thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think the next couple of tracks coming up for him, the next two are really good tracks for him. I mean, in Austria, he was able to live with the GP24s last year when he was on a year-old bike that was clearly inferior for some parts of the sprint race and the Sunday race. So yeah, I think he's going to be really strong in Austria, Hungary, as I just mentioned, anti-clockwise. So it looks like he could clean up there quite easily. And yeah, just that sort of feeling that he hasn't really got out of fourth gear in the last 3 or 4 race weekends that we've had. Assen, I think, being the exception. Other than that, it's been winning with so much in reserve that you have to imagine that it's going to continue apace. Not just this year, but potentially next year could be quite tough for the opposition too. So, I don't see any massive sea change coming up in the second part of the season, Ed.
Dave, could we still have a championship that's won in Europe?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think the only reason that would stop it from being won in Europe, I mean, in Europe, I presume you mean Misano and not Portimao or Valencia. Yeah, exactly.
Indeed.
No, I mean, the only thing that can stop that is a crash. As I said earlier, the only person that can stop Marc is Marc. We know he's going to win the championship. The question is when.
That's your new catchphrase now, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. No, but I mean, what I found really interesting in Brno was the fact that he was openly talking about the championship, and that was the goal, and that was the only thing he was focused on. He only wants to win the championship. The biggest thing in his life right now is to win a championship. So we might see him be a little bit more conservative in the second half of the championship. As he works towards winning, actually trying to win the title, and I think that's sort of the best hope of it, of dragging it out beyond Misano. But Pecco keeps on finding ways to lose. Alex Marquez manages to make expensive mistakes, and Marc is the only one who has consistently, he's made his 2 mistakes. Expensive ones, but still, and now he's just focused on racking up points and reeling in the title.
I do wonder the Gabarini Bagnaia combination. I mean, we're talking about one of the most formidable double acts in MotoGP in the last half a decade. I do wonder what they've been sort of bubbling or trying to conjure during these 3 weeks off. If we come back to racing and there's no change whatsoever, then that's going to be pretty heavy going. It's going to make a long second half of the season, but I think we can already start thinking towards our texts and stories about Marc and 2025 and how it's been the Marquez, chronicle, as we've been talking about already on the podcast. Instead, let's go into some of our other categories here on the podcast. We've still got a great interview with Johann Zarco coming up, and Neil, he's pretty topical at the moment as well.
He is indeed. He just won the Suzuka 8Rs last weekend, his second in a row for Honda, which will no doubt add maybe an extra couple of 100,000 to his contract negotiations. So yeah, I think it's always a bit of a boon if you are currently negotiating a contract or renewing a contract with the manufacturer, and you've just won the most important race of the year for said manufacturer.
Dave, did you lose interest in the 8 hour when the lead changed during a pit stop?
I was too busy watching the Tour des Femmes, actually.
Okay.
And honestly, like, I wish I could have. This is I mean, yes, gosh, what a luxury it is for me to actually cover the motorbike. There's 22 races in a season, and I wish I had time and energy. It takes such an intensity to focus on to work over a GP weekend. You're trying to keep a track of everything, keep on top of everything, and when there isn't a race, you just want to step away. And it would be lovely if there were 18 races and I could actually enjoy the Suzuka 8-hour race, get to a superbike round, maybe get to a motocross round. I'd love to go to another motocross. I absolutely adored going to MXGP. Yes, I'm afraid I didn't pay the attention to the Suzuki 8-hour that it deserves.
You should have come to the MXGP in Belgium last weekend.
I did think about it, but it was raining.
It was raining on Saturday. It was nice and hot on Sunday, though, to be fair. So that was good. A little bit of history made as well. A Belgian winner in Belgium.
Exactly. There's one near me, I think on the same weekend as Hungary. So I might pop across to there and give them your regards.
Just before we dip into our categories, a reminder once more that the Paddock Pass podcast is backed by renthal.com. If you have a street bike and you're after a first-class accessory or an aftermarket part for your bars, grips, chain wheels, then have a look at renthal.com. Use the Fit My Bike option for the exact model that you have to find the exact product that you need. We're also, for those who haven't or are late to booking a summer holiday and considering a MotoGP or World Superbike round, Pole Position Travel. We're aligned with them for the first half of this year, and we have a code PPOD25X. If you enter that on the Pole Position Travel.com website, then you'll get a small discount thanks to listening to the podcast. So plan your next trip, not just the logistics of travel, but also some entertainment and activities planned around the races as well. Right. Neil, who has impressed you most from the first half of 2025 MotoGP?
With the exception of the leader, who we've spoken about in great detail over the last 2 or 3 months, it has to be his brother. I was expecting Alex Marquez to have an impressive season, especially considering his really strong preseason. Fastest in Barcelona at the end of last year, fast immediately as soon as he got onto the GP24. But for him to have, been the rider at the forefront of the fight against Marc, I don't think we were expecting it to be as consistent as it was. And I know we've become a little bit tired of the sort of, Marquez 1-2 in the sprints that we've seen, pretty much every sprint that we've had this year, I think, bar one. It is still quite remarkable that Alex is doing that. And, I think we have to kind of pinch ourselves and think back to what we were thinking. Last year, even at the start of this season, this was not a common thing to see Alex Marquez this strong everywhere. He had a couple of good tracks in previous years where he would always be at the front. But for him to have been as consistent as he's been, with the exception of Brno, obviously took a wee bit of the shine and gloss off his first part of the season, disastrous round in the Czech Republic. But that aside, he has been, the second best rider in the world this year, hands down. For him to have taken that big step, I have to say, I never really thought we would see Alex this strong in MotoGP.
Yeah, good shout. For my nomination, I have to say I'm going to go for Maverick Vinales. I think the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 rider, he posted 3 top 5 finishes. He had good Grand Prix in Spain, Le Mans and Assen. And, of course, the left shoulder injury at Sachsenring was a great shame because he was odds on for another podium finish there. And he's just been able to take the KTM RC16 and make it work, but in both configurations. I can't remember, was it Neil who mentioned the Qatar podium contention? Yeah, when he was leading the Grand Prix. In contrast to sort of his teammate, who's had a very tough outing, Pedro Acosta, who's had a disappointing year for other reasons. We might come on to him later. And then, of course, Brad Binder, who's maybe sort of going through one of his most arduous seasons in MotoGP. I think Maverick's been a bit of a revelation, not only in his form, but also his attitude, which hasn't always been the case, you could say, throughout his MotoGP tenure.
Yeah, it's been really interesting that Pedro Acosta has been at pains to point out that he's doing better than Maverick Vinales. He keeps on saying, no, look, I'm the best KTM rider at the moment. It's not Maverick at all, which tells you an awful lot about how well Maverick is doing, and also about how Pedro Acosta feels.
Who's impressed you, Dave?
I mean, for me, it has to be Johann Zarco, because I mean, like he was good last year. The way that he was so focused and concentrated and just working towards improving the bike, and this year he's taken a really big step forward. He's so clearly the best Honda rider. He's such a long way ahead of the other Honda riders. All of that is, I think, experience, maturity, approach. He has everything in place. He's doing all the right things. He's clearly, obviously, helping push the Honda project forward. And, HRC had been very smart in accepting that LCR, in treating LCR the way that Ducati used to treat Pramac, which is, much much more of a junior factory effort. Honda or Zarco is, pretty much a factory Honda rider in everything but name. They've been just really, really smart about it. He has been so calm. His victory, winning in Le Mans was magical, truly magical. It was just absolutely superb. And he hasn't really put a foot wrong, and he's ahead of all sorts of people he has no he has no business being ahead of. He's ahead of Fabio Quartararo. He's not that far off Pedro Acosta or Franco Morbidelli. The fact that he's only 30 points behind Morbidelli, who is on the best bike on the grid, I think is a real sign of just how good Zarco has been this year.
It's interesting that he's one of those riders that seems to thrive in a satellite team outfit.
Environment. Exactly. There are so many riders that you see, like everyone wants to go to a factory team, and there's so many advantages to being in a factory team, but there are also lots of pressures where it's so easy to fail in a factory team. And there are so many, like I think Maverick Vinales, we're seeing the same a bit with Vinales. Vinales is in a satellite team. All the pressure is off. He's been in a factory team all of his life. Pressure is off. He could just focus on his riding. He gets taken seriously, but without the pressure of factory riding, and he's really sort of blossoming. We saw the same with Zarco, or we're seeing the same with Zarco. We saw the same with Cal Crutchlow. Cal Crutchlow, to me, was the archetype of a satellite rider. I think Jack Miller's the same. He's a superb satellite rider, also because as a satellite rider, you've got a little bit more freedom to express your character. You don't have the same sort of like corporate pressures. So really, really done well there.
On that note, here's our talk with Johann. Neil, where did you record it?
Yes, so this was recorded in Mugello, just before the Italian Grand Prix. And Johann was a bit spaced out at first because he'd just come back from testing at the Suzuka 8 hours. I think he said that he was in Japan for a grand total of 40 hours. Basically jetted in and out from Europe, so he was understandably a little lethargic at the first kind of interaction before I started recording. But we sort of just talked generally a little bit about how he's evolved as a rider, whether he enjoys racing more now as a kind of experienced rider. I think in his 17th season in Grand Prix than he did when he was at the start of his career, and after his race win in France, he was very up on his history of the sport, and that's not always the case with modern day MotoGP riders. So we spoke a little bit about his place in history and how he would like to be remembered, and he came up with a rather strange comparison how he wanted to be remembered to a certain Italian rider from the 1970s, which really caught me off guard. So this is what Johann had to say just before the Italian Grand Prix. Okay, I'm here with Johann Zarco. Johann, thanks very much for joining me today. My first question is a very general one. You're 34 years old. I was checking. You're now in your 17th Grand Prix season. Do you enjoy racing more now that you have this kind of experience, or is it something that when you're younger there's a bit more excitement?
No, I'm enjoying more now because everything around just racing is better than before when I started, and I was feeling more pressure when I started, so that's why now I know also I'm competitive. I get more confidence with myself, and this helps to enjoy more. And also getting used to race a MotoGP bike is just magic. So I'm still growing up on my skills, and that's why I think, yes, I'm enjoying more than 17 years ago.
It seems to me that you've attacked this new chapter of your career at Honda with a lot of patience, a lot of maturity. When you signed with Lucio and Honda, did you know that that was what was required to kind of bring this level back to Honda?
Yes, I knew that it's going to be a very different challenge at what I was used to do with Ducati when I signed with Honda. That's why I signed also for 2 years. I wanted these 2 years to give me a time to build something, and which was impossible to get it with Ducati. But with Ducati, with the best bike and so many riders that want this best bike, it was a different pressure that was not easy to handle, but doesn't give the time to the rider to make a step back and try to do things in a different way to grow up. And with Honda, I got this opportunity. And yes, accept to enjoy even in the tough moments. Clearly, I learned to do it with Honda because last year we were not competitive. But I could take a pleasure even in that challenge, even sometimes some frustration was there, and I could be angry, which is normal when you are a competitor. You cannot be satisfied of what you do if you don't get the result you wish. But I was not holding this frustration, and that's why it has been a different challenge. And it seems that be able to take the topic in a different way and enjoy those moments. The good one came by themselves, and the last two, really the 2 podium I got now, which I could not think. When you sign with Lucio, you just hope that we say, yeah, we build the things, the target is to win, but you are not obsessed by it because you see that it seems impossible, but it's never impossible. So that's why now that this happened, it seems that it just came to us. Even we didn't. It was not necessary to catch it. It came to us, and that's fantastic.
You spoke a little about how you're different now to when you were just starting out back in 2006 or 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly. 9, sorry, yeah, your first year in 125s. But how would you say Johann Zarco in 2025 is different to, say, Johann Zarco in 2019?
More experience on the bike. So I have my performance on the bike and more capacity to do different things on bike and understand it's happening on the bike. So this is big difference, which I could have done a better work in KTM in that time. Also, the advantage with Honda was less stressed if I'm not performing, because I had the feeling that the performance I did it before with Ducati, so I don't need to prove, and just this pressure to always want to prove that you can do it in my mind was, okay, I prove enough with Ducati, let's see what is coming with Honda. But in the KTM time, in my mind was what I did with Yamaha was still not enough, even if I had 2 world titles in Moto2. So yeah, that's the difference of between 25 and 19 is I don't feel I need to prove, and this helps a lot of how to control the emotion when things get bad, because when everything is good, it's easy to be calm. It's when it's getting tricky that you have to stay calm.
I think in the last few years you started working with a mental coach and with an ex-Olympian trainer as well. How has this helped you?
It helps but he learned me to change the speech in my mind, to get more positive, and as I said before, enjoy even when it's tough. And that was very interesting, and that was one of the 2 steps, like change the speech in the mind and also accept that when it's tough, it can be cool also.
We're recording on the Thursday at Mugello. We're 5 weeks on from that incredible situation in Le Mans. I'm just curious, 5 weeks on, Johann, do you still have moments where you're, I don't know, in the shower thinking about that and thinking, wow, did that really happen? Like it seemed like such a historic moment at the time. I'm just wondering, how has it been for you to process that in the last few weeks?
I think about it more when I'm speaking about it with my parents or with some friends that, for example, here in Mugello, I have 3 friends that I was in school with them, and now we are not living at the same place. So they are coming here, and maybe we can see each other once a year. So then we have been speaking about this moment, and in that moment, when I speak about the Le Mans race, yeah, I got this feeling that wow, it really happened. And but every day, no, I really try to enjoy the moment now, or take it. So if it's positive or negative, something that has been done, it's done. So that's why this is my mentality. But yeah, I'm still having this feeling that I'm so happy and feel so lucky that I lived this, because yeah, it's really unique. The way people remember that. Even now in Italy, if someone just see me in the supermarket, he just say, wow, Le Mans was fantastic. That's okay, French people, yes, but foreign people, when I'm in another country, if they see me, they see Zarco, they think about the victory in France. That's good.
Looking back at Honda this year, I'm just curious, you've been with them for about 20 months now. How have you seen Honda and the project, the MotoGP project, change in the time from when you joined at the end of 2023 to this moment now?
But to be positive, when I signed, I really thought, okay, it's the first constructor in the world. There is enough of money to develop the bike, and they have the power to do it. Then I hope they can have the right ideas to bring on the bike, to develop the bike and compete against Gigi Dall'Igna. Even more than Ducati's compete against Gigi. And now, last year I could feel that we are so far, and that was really thinking, can it happen good? It can be good or not? I don't know. And finally, when it began to be better at the beginning of the season, I realized that it seems we were so far, but we are not so far. And the way Honda is approaching this category, sometimes I feel that, wow, it seems that once we will get it, we will hold it, and then we will be so strong. So maybe we are preparing things that when it will work, we will get better than the others. I feel this, and I hope I'm right. So I'm kind of curious, and that's why I want to continue with Honda, because when I signed with the 2 years with Honda in middle of 2023, I was really thinking maybe it's the last 2 years, and it could be the beginning of the end. And now during the 24 season, it was the beginning of something new, something different. And now, with all the good things I got, we are on the way to continue, and that's so cool.
Would it be the end of the world for you if you didn't go to the factory team next year, or is that all you're thinking about?
No, clearly not the end of the world. But we try to manage things with my agent. We also, honestly speaking, with Lucio, I want to have this position of a number one rider in Honda. But we are speaking with Honda that this could be possible even in the LCR team. So that's why we are working on the fact to be a number one rider in Honda, but staying with LCR team, because all the group is good. We have the same sponsor with Castrol also. Things are on the way. Let's see. So, but no, maybe I can be a factory rider. I feel like a factory rider already. That's why choose to be with LCR would be cool.
And when you say be a number one rider with Honda, that's be the first rider to test new things, perhaps, this kind of treatment?
Yeah, clearly. And yes, and every time get my two bikes in the box at the best. because sometimes, but then there is the regulation with the engine. Even if we have more possibilities, sometimes you get unlucky. You can break some engine, and then there are some sessions that you have to sacrifice to save some kilometers. So these things can happen if you are a satellite rider or a factory rider. But be sure that all of these details are even better control to get more free mind when I go on track on every session.
Just two more questions, Johann. We know you're a rider that has very diverse interests away from MotoGP. You're a good musician. You play piano, guitar. I know you like to ride a street bike. You rode a street bike to Aragon a couple of years ago. I'm just curious, do you have time to pursue these interests when you're a MotoGP rider, or is MotoGP consuming all of your time?
No, I have time to play music, but I'm playing what I know at the moment, and I would like to take the time to learn better the music, to enjoy a different instrument, or to improve my skill in guitar or piano, to enjoy even more the music than what I'm doing now, because I feel I have my limits. And but yet, if I learn a new song, it's really when I can have the time, but I don't push myself. It's coming by itself when I can do it, but I'm not pushing myself for it. So that's it. Then with the motorbike, I'm using the motorbike on the streets, but it's to gain time, because for me that's more freedom with motorbike. Every city now has traffic jam, so I'm always looking at the time, I cannot lose time, so that's why I like to move with motorbike. But do a big tour with motorbike with friends, clearly this doesn't exist yet, and this would be later to maybe do some event, because I will remain famous, at least in France. So if I do things with motorbike, a road trip, it will be something organized, to see the people, to go to see the sponsor, all the things that now sponsor would like I do, that I say, no, I can't. I say, let's do it later when I stop racing. Like this, I have time for you.
Because just before coming here, you were in Japan for, 40 hours or 45 hours? So, time is very, very precious, I guess, right?
Yeah, too precious. And as an athlete, you need to train every day. You don't need to train hard, but to keep your body fit the best as possible. There are moments that you have to train, there are moments that you have to rest. And lately, with many trips to Japan, the races, just the MotoGP calendar is tricky, but when you add trips to Japan, it seems now I'm not even training as an athlete lately. And I hate this. So I know I have enough of March to still feel good, but if I want to do progress, I need then to select as well as possible, and every time you do progress, you have to select even better what you need to do to perform, to feel good.
Just one more question, Johann. After your win in Le Mans, you said you were very aware of the history of the sport. You knew exactly when the last French winner was at the French Grand Prix, for example. I'm just curious, what do you think, or what do you hope your legacy will be when you finish racing in MotoGP?
I'm very proud of all these races I'm doing. So, I'm just focused of making races, and then I see that when I make the total, I got those numbers which are not easy one to get. I remember when I say I like history of motorbike, for example, we all want to be big champion like Agostini, Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, the people who are winning races and titles. But then I remember I said to myself, I would like to be like Italian riders. I think he has 4 titles in 250 in the 80s, but was not famous. It's not like even because Max Biaggi is one of the top. That we want also to be like him. And But another one that is not famous, I would like to be like this kind of rider, that finally people doesn't know too much, but people into the paddock, the teams, wants a guy like this. And to be, that we can remember that, maybe I was not winning, able to win all the races, but we could count on Johann because he was always fast enough to work with him, and that's something I would be happy to. And I think now people have this in mind.
Yeah. So not a huge celebrity kind of profile, but someone that got the results done.
Yeah. It's a name with O. Walter Villa. So it was in the 70s.
Okay.
And I say 4 titles, but I see only 1, 2, 3. Yeah, like something like that, It was and I remember that I said to myself, nobody knows him, but 3 world titles is just wow. So at least I got 2, and finally I'm more famous than Walter Villa because I did also better races in the top category. Because then to be famous and even be rich, you have to perform in MotoGP. And so now I have this. But just this fact to be world champion, at least I got it 2 times in Moto2. I'm so happy for this. And like the passionate people can remember this, that people, whatever this you can think about MotoGP, like about these celebrity things. Yeah, but Zarco is not only good now. Like 10 years ago, he was world champion. So it means like 10 years ago, I was already a top 1. And that's good to remember. So Walter Villa, that was kind of my reference, to say why not.
Nice one. Well, Johann Zarco, always a pleasure to speak to you. Good luck this weekend at Mugello, and thank you very much.
Thank you. See you.
As we are gobby knowles on the Paddock Pass podcast, we are impressed by people, but we're also profoundly disappointed by some. Dave, who has been in this category?
Included, of course.
It goes without saying, almost, Neil. Dave, who falls into that category for you?
For me, it has to be Pecco Bagnaia because he's being
harsh, perhaps.
No.
Oh.
No, he's being beaten by someone on last year's bike. He's being beaten by someone in perhaps the only true satellites team. But
give him that bike back, and maybe he'll be slightly more competitive.
I don't think it would make any difference. There are people who know things who tell me that bike is almost identical to the bike that he's got, especially in the configuration that he's riding it, where he's not actually, he hasn't had very many of the updates. He has changed his forks. He's now using the big, the longer Öhlins forks. But he says he can't find the same confidence in braking that he had last year, and that seems, genuine. I don't like to say this, but it does genuinely seem to be mostly between the ears. That they're just looking for something to give him the confidence that he can start to ride again. But he's just been completely intimidated. He looked so much better last year. He looked so much more comfortable. He looked so much more confident, and he's just been a huge disappointment this year. I thought he would sort of at least try and take the fight to Marc, but the only person who's taken the fight to Marc has been Alex.
Yeah, I think at this point in the year, we've gone 12 races in. Bagnaia hasn't laid a glove on Marc. That's one thing. But he hasn't even come close to laying a glove on Marc in any of the races that we've had, with the exception of the first, 8 laps in the Italian Grand Prix at Mugello, where, fair enough, he did get stuck in. Then he had that front end slide at the last corner. And from there, he was kind of consigned to the same old. And if you think back to what we were saying during preseason, we were really talking this up as like one of the great rivalries, inter-team rivalries. This was going to be Lorenzo Rossi from 2015. This was going to be Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, just another reference that you love, Dave, from like the early 90s. And it's just not even ever had that sort of air. And yeah, it's become quite frustrating, actually. I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating for Bagnaia, but for him just to trot out the same things, and for him to trot out the same things about the sprint race now in the 3rd year of the sprint races, is like, you're supposed to get your head around these things, and it's been 3 seasons. It's nearly been 3 seasons now, and yeah, like it's acceptable to be beaten by Marc on the same bike in the same team, but to be so far off is quite another thing. And I think it's he's been. It's hard to look past him as the big disappointment from the year.
I think it's a little unfair to be saying he's beaten that badly, because he's still third in the championship. You know, the only person who is beating him is
but when
Alex
has he been
Marquez.
close?
Oh no, he hasn't been close. But then, you know, when has any teammate been close? You know, the only teammate who ever really got close to Marc was Danny Pedrosa in the first season, who straight up beat him a couple of times. But in this form, it's really, really difficult. It really reminds me, Pecco Bagnaia really reminds me of Valentino Rossi when he went to Ducati, and we used to go into the Ducati hospitality for the media debriefs every time and ask, well, look, Casey was winning on this bike, why can't you? And Valentino, to his credit, never actually snapped at us. He always said the same thing: Casey rode this bike in a very special way, and I can't ride it like that. And it sounds, listening to Pecco saying, I can't brake, I don't feel comfortable, I don't understand why, you know, Marc can do it, I can't. That's it. That, to me, it's reminiscent of that same sort of issue.
I mean, you both make convincing cases, but like Dave says, I mean, Bagnaia is still third in the championship. He's one of the GP winners this year. Neil, have you got him?
After Marc fell off.
Yeah. Neil, have you got him down as your disappointment, or have you got another option?
Well, I do have him down as my disappointment, but as Dave has already mentioned him, I'm going to go for Alex Rins, because it's been a really, really difficult year for him. He's the third best Yamaha, but possibly only because Miguel Oliveira was injured in Argentina, and the Yamaha still is a very flawed machine and still has big weak points. But there has been progress of sorts this year. We have seen Fabio Quartararo on pole position, for 3 straight Grand Prix earlier in the season, on the podium in a race where, okay, Marc crashed out at Jerez, but still it was a very valid podium finish ahead of Bagnaia in Jerez. Should have won the race at Silverstone, but for real cruel misfortune. And this is Alex's second season now in that bike, on that bike, in that team. And if anything, it seems like he's getting further away from where he needs to be than getting closer. And, you know, Rins was maybe never a rider you had down to win a MotoGP World Championship, but he was, on his day, an absolute fearsome rider. And it's just, I think it's quite sad to see. He is a bit of a shadow of his former self in many regards. You know, the race in Germany was just awful, like 20 seconds back of the rider next ahead of him on track. And I think he had one good sprint race in Le Mans where he was inside the top 10. And he had a top 10 finish at Sachsenring, but he was last in that race. Otherwise, he's not even been in the top 10. And he doesn't have that sort of fallback that the Yamaha is as far away as it was a year ago.
I can't help but think some of it must be related to the fact that he's only just stopped limping due to that broken leg injury from 2023. I mean,
yeah, but that would also mean, I mean, he had a better season last year. He looked a lot better last year. Last year, he looked sort of like competitive at times, and this year he just hasn't. And his leg should be better this year than it was last year. So it just seems like he can't understand what the bike is doing or how to ride it.
My nomination, or my kind of selection for disappointment of the season, is kind of divided between two. So I wouldn't mind your input in helping to choose. But I think the whole Jorge Martin wild goose chase, which you guys covered so sort of comprehensively at the last Grand Prix in Czechia, was just a farce. I think Jorge and his personal team.
I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it gave us plenty to talk about, gave us plenty to write about, and there was to and fro in for a period of months, but it did look quite ridiculous, really, when you consider how sort of the leaves have fallen and sort of settled. But then, you know, my other option would be the sort of Pedro Acosta's sort of general conduct at KTM, really, and how, you know, for a rider who's into quite a few MotoGP appearances now, what he was saying, the way he was acting, it wasn't really what the factory, who were going through sort of troubled times away from the track, really perhaps needed at that time. Maybe they needed some more fortitude, maybe more of the Brad Binder, well, you know, I've got to work on myself, we've got to knuckle down, we've got to get through it. You know, in one hand, I kind of appreciate Pedro's honesty and the sincerity of his emotions. He wasn't covering up stuff. He wasn't being he wasn't obfuscating the facts and his emotions. But then, on the other hand, there was a great deal of repetition where you kind of think, mate, you know, perhaps you need to sort of look at it a different way to try and force this thing more to your hand. And then, of course, the results on the track, as we mentioned, Vinales was actually posting better finishes up until, you know, he managed to grab that elusive podium finish in Brno. So just quick thoughts from you two. Which one, Martin or Acosta?
Well, I actually think Pedro's been quite impressive since he had his arm pump surgery after Jerez. I mean, you look at his results since then, and I think he's actually been doing a really good job with the tools at his disposal. Okay, Maverick's been a bit faster than him sometimes, but generally speaking, he's been the better racer. And he goes into the summer break with that huge boost at Brno. So yeah, I'd say Martin probably is the bigger disappointment. I mean, okay, there's again positivity going into the summer break, but when you consider just how desperate it was, 3 serious injuries and 2 race appearances in the first 12. Yeah, I mean, that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I mean, I would sort of agree with that. I do think that Acosta, I think sort of Acosta ran into the problem with being a factory rider, is that some point, you know, at some point you run into the fact that you are reliant on the machinery, and if the machinery isn't improving, despite your input, then that can be frustrating. But the thing is to attack it more like Brad Binder, which is to get your head down and work rather than sit there and sulk and pout and want to leave to VR46 and then pout even worse when you find out that you can't leave to VR46. So, yeah, I mean, it's been...
To be fair, he stopped pouting when he found out he couldn't go to VR46.
Yes, yeah. No, that was entirely fair. But I mean, like, again, I would say that Brad Binder has been more of a disappointment because he has just utterly failed to get to grips with that bike. And it's not for want of trying. God knows he's trying. He's working really hard at trying to, but he just isn't. And let's not talk about Enea Bastianini. But yeah, I mean, I suppose if I had to choose, I would say certainly the start to Jorge Martin's season, because we were really looking forward to seeing how Jorge Martin could go on that bike. And then, like, everything got just completely destroyed by all of that. And then at least we had the entertainment of the contract drama.
Yeah, the lack of, the way that the Binder KTM synergy has eroded has been pretty disappointing because, I mean, what a combative rider, a real fighter on the bike, and not being able to really manipulate it how he's done in the past. I mean, what a sight Binder was at full flow on the KTM in seasons, you know, recently in the past, and now it's not something we see anymore, which I think is makes the class the poorer for it.
Yeah, I think, but that's also to an extent a function of the bikes and the Michelin tire, and people are getting used to this new rear Michelin, and they're trying to get more out of it, and that's making riders and bikes ride a little bit more smoothly, and that doesn't suit him. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with the Pirellis, because I think it's going to be a real shake-up. I think we're for more of the same next year, but 2027 should be ace.
Neil, last category, who was your surprise of the season so far?
My surprise was Marco Bezzecchi, 4th in the championship going into the summer break.
I told you at the start of the year. I told you that he was going to be.
All right,
it was my nomination as well, eh?
It was a shot in the dark that you took, Dave. Don't pretend that you were falling back in any greater knowledge. You were just trying to.
No. Nostradamus here.
Yes, but I mean, yeah, Bezzecchi has really surprised me. There was just so many doubts cast upon him, I think rightly so, last year. You know, where is his level? Was his level 2023, where he was fighting for the championship on a year-old bike? Or was it last year when he was just, you know, so far off the best rider on that GP23? You know, I think he admitted freely that his motivation dipped a little bit last year with the kind of lack of progress he was making with the tools at his disposal. But yeah, not just his results, which have been very impressive in the last 7 or 8 rounds. Won a race, consistent podium contender. but it was probably just how seamlessly he adapted, not just to being a factory rider, but also the leader of the factory in Jorge Martin's absence. And I think Martin's absence probably did a good thing for Bezzecchi, because all he had to do was show up really determined, fully committed, and reassert his commitment to the Aprilia cause for him to be hailed as this kind of like exemplar rider and beacon of professionalism in comparison to what was going on with his absent teammate. But still, he did manage to take on that responsibility very well and backed it up with consistent results. And I think I said it on a recent pod, but since Silverstone, he has been now, the lead sort of fighter, non-Ducati guy, with maybe one or two exceptions. So, Bezzecchi, I think, has been, I wouldn't say a revelation, because we've seen him this strong in the class before, but in this kind of status as a factory rider, I was not expecting him to be as high as fourth in the championship.
Yeah, I've got him as well, Neil. I mean, talking to him can be as fun as sitting on a beach without a drop of sun cream. But, you can't argue with the results. I think it was in Le Mans and also Jerez where he was, almost out of the points. They were the two disappointments of the season, but otherwise grabbing 3 podiums, 1 win. Like you say, having that environment without Jorge Martin there, he kind of stepped up and really kind of led the Aprilia factory. I think, we do have to file him away as a surprise of the season. What we don't have to do is acknowledge that Dave already predicted it and was going to say it was a surprise from the outset. I had the same kind of verdict as you. What have you got, Mr. Emmett?
Well, I'm two riders, brief mentions. Alex Marquez, we've talked about it a lot. He's been so good this year. I think we were expecting him to do quite well.
Not really a surprise then.
No, it is a surprise for him to be the only rider capable of actually taking the fight to Marc. He's been so consistent. That's the other thing. The thing about Alex was he could have his days where he'd be brilliant, and then at other tracks he'd turn up and he'd be sort of mid-pack again. That's what we've been expecting. But he's been just consistently brilliant. He's been consistently strong at every racetrack. That to me has been a really big surprise. It's not that he's been successful expecting that, but not to this extent, week in, week out. That has been really, really impressive. And Maverick Vinales, just because of his attitude, like he has really blossomed in Tech 3. He's been really calm, really concentrated, just really zen, really, about the whole thing. And that was very much not his thing at all. He would go off and blow his top somewhere and
blow his engine.
Yes, exactly. he would completely lose the plot from time to time, and he hasn't. He's been really smooth, stable, and just very impressive. And he's really led the direction of KTM and taken that responsibility on himself, which has been very, very impressive.
I think Neil might be blushing with pride.
Vicarious pride. Yes,
that's why I'm wearing a pink T-shirt today. So my face doesn't stand out, because I knew there would be lots of Maverick chat.
I hope he's going to be fit for Red Bull Ring. We have to assume so, because Polo Espargaro was even being quite hopeful after his wildcard appearance in Czechia.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty much it, guys. I think we've covered some of the topics just for our sort of fill-in podcast in the summer break. And we've got one more free weekend before we do go to Spielberg. And just very quickly, what are we going to be doing?
A bit of cycling, my taxis, which is always a great joy of the summer.
You really know how to live, Dave, don't you?
I certainly do. But then I should be riding down to Austria on my motorbike again, and I've I'm going to have ended up riding my motorbike for about 30 days in about 50. So all is good with the world.
Are you staying in another mud hut this year?
I am not staying in a mud hut, but I am staying in a place which was cheap because it's the first time anyone has ever booked it. So I'm expecting it to be full of surprises.
Neil, how's the stand-up comedy gig going for the Fringe?
Well, I'm not there yet. We're recording this on Tuesday. I will be going there on Saturday, so I can tell you in next week's show. But yeah, I'm in Northern Ireland at the moment, so doing a brief little whistle-stop tour of a few places in the UK. Here for a few days with the family, and then up to Scotland on Friday for a few days at the Fringe.
Yeah, free weekend, glorious. I was in the Belgian MXGP last weekend, so yeah, not much to do apart from, well, get all that copy written up and sent off to various people. But that's pretty much it for this show. Thank you to Renthal.com and Pole Position Travel. We'll be back to preview the Red Bull Ring next week.